Good morning. Today's on your same is lesson 16, environment weather. So in this lesson we will speak about weather. So what is weather? Weather describes the state of the atmosphere at any particular time. Weather can be described in terms of temperature. Precipitation may be snow, rain and hail, wind speed and direction, visibility and cloud amounts. What is climate? Climate describes the average weather of a particular part of the world at different times of the year. In Britain, we would expect cool summers and mild winters with moderate rainfall throughout the year. The weather station. A weather station makes continuous measurements of different aspects of the weather. Weather stations use standard instruments so that their readings can be compared. Temperature. Temperature is recorded using thermometers housed inside the Stevenson screen. Weather stations record both air temperature and the temperature of the ground. Precipitation. So rainfall, snow, hail and fog. Rainfall is measured in a rain gauge. Some rain gauges record rainfall automatically whilst others are emptied every day by an observer. Wind. The direction and the strength of the wind are both measured. A wind vane measures direction. An anemometer records strength. Wind strength can also be measured using the Beaufort scale. So in this picture you can see the Beaufort scale. Pressure. Pressure is the weight of the atmosphere when air rises, pressure falls. When air skims, pressure increases. Pressure controls the type of weather. Barometers and barographs record pressure. Recording pressure. Sunshine. A note is made of the number of hours of bright sunshine each day. Sunshine is traditionally measured using a Campbell-Stokes sunshine recorder. So you can see it from in this picture. Cloud. The amount of the sky obscured by a cloud. Different types of clouds. Sometimes even the speed and direction in which the clouds are moving are recorded using a nephascope. So in this picture you can see the clouds. Temperature. In summer it gets warmer the further south you go. In winter it gets warmer the further west you go. In Britain temperature is affected by latitude and the sea. In winter the northern hemisphere is tilted away from the sun, so the sun's rays are weaker. In summer, the northern hemisphere is tilted towards the sun, so the sun's rays are stronger. During the course of the year, the Earth titless toward and away from the sun. The midpoints of this cycle are called the equinoxes, spring and autumn. The North Atlantic Drift is a warm ocean current originating in the Caribbean. It moves across the Atlantic, keeping the west of Britain warmer than the east in winter. The winter in Canada and Britain. Rainfall. In Britain it rains the most in the west and mountainous areas. Rain is brought across Britain from weather system called depressions. In summer showers result convection on warm days. How it rains. The surface is heated by the sun, air rises, air expands and cools, air condenses, water droplets group to form raindrops. Air can rise in different ways. Cyclonic rainfall. Depressions are areas of low pressure formed when cold and warm air meet. The warm air rises above the cold air to form a front. There are two types of fronts depending on the way in which air masses are moving. Cyclonic rainfall fronts you can see from this picture. Convectional rainfall also you can see. Fair weather. Fair weather is produced by high pressure. High pressure forms anticyclones. Modern forecasters use computers to simulate likely weather based on careful observations from hundreds of weather stations around the world. Satellite images and radar give a better picture of the weather over the wide area. Now let's watch a video about weather.
Today we're going to begin our weather unit, and we're going to start by actually talking about what weather is. When we talk about this concept of weather, we're basically talking about conditions in the atmosphere at a particular time in a particular place. There's also climate, which is this idea of long-term patterns of weather. And we'll talk more about that a little bit later in the unit. But if we say what's the weather today, all we want to know is what's happening outside at a certain place. Is it raining? Is it sunny? Is it cloudy? Our weather on Earth is affected by a variety of factors that we'll be talking about in detail throughout this unit. But the major things that really affect our weather patterns that we have include things like temperature, air pressure, and humidity, as well as the general climate of the area that we're looking at. When we measure weather, there's all different factors that we can measure, and there's a variety of different tools that we can use to measure and record weather in our area. The first thing that we can measure is temperature, and that's one that everybody's probably very familiar with, just looking at the thermometer to see what the temperature is outside. And we measure the temperature in degrees. In America, we use the Fahrenheit scale. Most countries use the Celsius scale. But the device that we use for that is a thermometer. There are digital thermometers, and then there's the old ones with the mercury or alcohol in them, where it just rises and expands upward as the temperature increases. The second factor of weather that we can look at is air pressure. And air pressure is simply a measurement of how tightly packed together the air molecules are. When air gets warmer, just like most substances, the molecules tend to spread out. When it gets cooler, they press together. And that can be a good predictor of what sort of weather we might have on a given day. A barometer is the device that we actually use to do our air pressure measurements. Humidity measures the amount of moisture in the air. It's kind of that feeling of how wet or dry the air is. Sometimes you go outside and people will say it's very humid, meaning the air feels very wet against your skin. And then other days it might feel very dry outside. That's just the amount of water vapor that's actually in the air along with the air molecules that are always how air might change in the area, or how weather might change rather, because if air is moving, it's maybe bringing in clouds, maybe bringing in sunny weather. But we can measure the wind based on how fast it's blowing, and that's done with what's called an anemometer. Basically, it's some cups that will spin around as the wind blows through them, and you can see by how fast they're spinning, you can actually determine how fast the wind is actually blowing at your location. Precipitation describes things like rainfall, snowfall, any type of water that's falling from the sky, like we talked about when we studied the water cycle. And we can measure that with a rain gauge. It just collects the rain, and we're able to see how much we actually receive. Wind direction is the last important factor that we can study when we study weather. And wind direction is important to us because it actually lets us know where the wind's coming from, which way it's blowing. And that way we can look at other areas to see if their weather is moving towards us, what we might can expect. So over the next few lessons, we'll actually be looking at how we use these factors to really describe the weather and make predictions about what the weather might be in days and months to come. But this is just kind of our introduction to some of the tools, some of the characteristics of weather that will be important to us in this year.
So it is the end of our video lesson. So as a home task, we should do all the tasks on the Moodle platform and don't submit it. If you have got any questions or any misunderstandings, you can easily contact me. Thank you for your attention. Our lesson is over. Goodbye.